Okay, we're on. Welcome to the End of Seeking podcast with me, Martyn, and
Me, Imogen.
it is episode 37, I believe.
Is it really? I had
Yeah.
no idea. I was about to say.
Well, we haven't done one for a few months, have we?
No.
I can't remember. I think September was the last one.
Yeah.
Do you want to just give our listeners an update on your upcoming events?
Well, it's been a rather interesting time for me in terms of events, but I have one more large event this year, and that is a 10-day retreat, winter retreat, and the dates are the 27th of December until the 5th of January. And you're welcome to join that. All the details are on my website.
Register online.
Yeah.
Register on Imogen Web. No? BeyondImogen.com.
Beyond Imogen.
Actually, both that domain points to that anyway. But yes, BeyondImogen.com.
Yeah. Yeah, you can find all the details there. And actually, that sort of segues into why we haven't been doing a podcast, maybe.
Go on. Why haven't we been doing a podcast?
Well, we've both been in quite interesting places, I think. The last couple of months, I would say.
Uh-huh.
I won't speak for you.
No,
I'll
go
let
on.
You speak for
yeah,
you.
you do you. Boo. What's going on?
But for me, this is a long time coming, but just been sort of feeling myself needing to break free of, what is it? A set way of doing things, maybe? Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for 7 years now or more. And I've been doing things like weekly things and monthly things and retreats and all that in a sort of a similar format for at least 4 or 5 years now.
Right.
And so much has changed for me in that time that I'm sort of just felt like I needed to
shake it up.
Yeah, not even shake it up, but just see what was true. Like let it all drop and see what remained, see what wanted to be birthed, see what wanted to change, and see what wanted to remain the same. And that's the process I find myself in right now. And so when you say, what events have you got coming up? 2025 is literally blank for me right now, purposefully so.
Right. God, 2025, that's crazy.
I know, isn't it?
So you've got your 10-day retreat coming up over Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
And then you're going to continue to sort of restructure and feel through how it is you want to offer, what it is.
Yeah, and that includes one-on-one sessions, everything. I've literally shut everything down. Already I see that that's not going to last for very long at all.
No. But you're giving yourself you open up the gap for yourself, right? You talked about the liminal.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the sort of the gap, the silent restructuring.
Which I've been in right now, even though I'm quite busy right now outwardly.
Yeah.
I myself am in that gap, in that liminal, letting myself be in a place of really don't know.
I think this is sort of interesting though, because this is a cycle for you.
Oh yeah.
I've seen you go through these cycles. And,
yeah.
You do things, and I think this is a pattern of reality which is worth noting.
Yeah.
That we do things, we build and we establish patterns and structures and whatnot, and then we live into those structures for a while. But then it goes, you start to feel a little constrained by, because we change, we create these structures, but then
we grow out of them.
We change, we grow out of them. So you have to sort of shake it up, break them down.
Yeah.
And it might be that you pick up similar structures or establish, but it also might be a birth of something new. And
so I've just in the last couple of months allowing myself to really let myself grow beyond those structures which now feel constraining.
I think that's really interesting. It's an interesting thing when I think about the I Ching, the I Ching. It's the book of changes. It's this I don't know why this comes to mind particularly, but it's the book of changes. It maps out the constant flux, of reality changing. So internally in our subtle selves, we're always shifting, changing, evolving.
Yeah.
But in order to function in a world, a material world, we have to establish structures, and that's often, that can be language, that can be ways of doing things, but it is by nature more structured and concrete than the more subtle ebbing and flowing of our inner being. So you have to kind of break down those intermittently, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, if in a creative sense.
Well, structures are really helpful when they're, supporting. But when you've outgrown them, they become stifling.
Yeah, and that's the thing that needs to be intermittently. I think about tarot. There's a card in the tarot, the tower, the lightning struck tower, and it represents something of that, in the sense that, the symbolism is this destruction of ways of an established way of being, once the status quo, and it seems, desperately, destructive, and it looks horrible. People are falling out of, of burning, lightning struck building. But then the symbolism is there that indicates, oh, this is actually divine. This is part of the plan, and again, it's the constant entering, recycling ourselves through the hero's journey. Birth, death, rebirth.
Totally.
The phoenix. These images that they're all mapping onto.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you are living from the perception of a separate self, all you see beyond that is death, annihilation. But if you're living from the viewpoint of what I am cannot die, only temporary appearances of what I am can change and their form. So to those that sort of really hold their sense of identity and solidity in the changeable,
in a fixed sort of sense,
that's a terrifying prospect. Oh my God, you've let go of everything, you've destroyed everything, everything's cracked open and disappeared. That's a terrifying prospect. And that certainly used to be my relationship to change.
Well, that's the egoic identity, isn't it? It's like, it's fixed. I am this. Can't threaten that.
Got to find stability in that.
Yeah, which is impossible.
But now that's not my relationship to it at all now. I'm super excited by this. Like I find this like a playground. Like, I don't know, that mystery, that place of liminal, that place of like, it's all breaking down and I don't know what's going to happen next.
But in order for
exciting.
Yes, actually. Right. But in order for the new to come, you have to let go of the old completely.
You do.
Because you don't. It's not like you can daisy chain it. You have to let it all go.
Yeah, and see what remains
in the gap. I mean, Maharshi talked about this in the dynamics of the evolution of Vedic expression. It's like the evolution of these principles of nature, that you'd have this syllable, and then it would collapse into the silent gap, and then the new evolved thing would come out of that gap. It's it's not like going. It look on the surface of it looks like evolution kind of operates on the horizontal, but it really there's a disconnect. Each collapse in waveform collapses into the unified field, restructures in silence, and then emerges evolved.
And that's thoughts. That's everything, actually.
Yeah, that's the structure. That's the structure of reality.
Even the blink of an eye. Notice as you blink the eye, it's like everything disappears for a moment and then reappears. Yeah. And the assumption is a continuity there, but actually the experience is not that.
Yes, it's
Yeah. So that's why, when you ask me what have I got coming up, I'm like,
who knows?
Well, ... TBD.
Yeah.
Lots, actually, is the honest one. People thought I, slightly freaked out for a moment, thinking I was disappearing, and actually, if they that's not at all what's going on. If anything, I feel like 2025 is going to be busier than ever, is my suspicion, at least. But it might look a little bit different, and I'm excited for that.
It's nice, though. I mean, we went to visit a possible site for a retreat.
Yes. And
we'll see what happens to that in the new year. That would be interesting for you, and to see what that looks like. But it's a beautiful location.
Oh, my heart
in West
there.
Wales.
Yeah.
It's in the chapel of St. Non, and there's a retreat centre there, and it's just
I love it.
stunning location right on oops, bouncing my mic. Give me a sec. Right on the edge of the Pembrokeshire coast, looking out. I mean, it's
on the edge of the world. It feels.
It does. I mean, it's probably one of the most westerly points of
Britain.
Of Britain.
Yeah, the energy there is.
Yeah.
It's hard to even put into words. Both you and I, whenever we go there, I feel
Yeah.
there's this particular bench we end up sitting
There's
on.
like a chapel that was built in the 30s there, but it looks like it's 500 years old, and that was the intention. We were talking to the it's run by the Catholic diocese. It's sort of on that, but they're very perennialist. They're very universalist. So they all sorts of people can kind of come and run retreats or just go to retreat, sit quietly and be fed and
you
look
can
out.
be on personal retreat.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a nice spot. Anyway, just saying. But next to this chapel, there's this bench that looks out over the what is that? Is that the Irish Sea? Quite?
Yeah, probably,
something like that.
Yeah.
Off the Pembrokeshire coast. Oh,
yeah.
my God, that's amazing. I mean,
it's got such an interesting
but the energy
there.
of it, it's not just the natural beauty,
No.
it's the spiritual power there. That's it. We've talked about places of spiritual power before.
Yeah. This is where reportedly St. David was born to his mother, St. Non.
Yeah.
And there's a well there that's a sacred well. And the ruins of the place where he was born, a chapel, I believe itself.
Yeah, I think the whole Saint Non thing and Saint David. I mean, that was like the 6th century, was it? I think 500s. I mean, it's his ancient stuff.
Yeah, but it's like for me at least, I get the impression that the energy was what was there first.
I agree.
And
I think this whole part of the world was like that, and
very strong.
Christianity came over and just slipped into the sort of native, spirituality.
Yeah, it's interesting that chapel that was built in the 30s. That at the front of the chapel, it's all women saints.
Yes,
and that's the energy for me is a very, very soft, feminine, divine mother presence. That's what I feel when I'm there, very strongly. And it's almost too subtle to be able to put into words for me.
It's so delicate.
Yeah.
So like transparent.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to see this, I took some photos there. There's a Mother Mary statue there, which is a marble, which is
huge.
which is
more than
bigger
life
than full
size.
size, and it was sculpted in England as a copy from one that's in Rome, I think. Is it? It's some famous.
It's the Notre Dame. No,
I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, it's beautiful, and I thought, it's sort of got a luminous and sort of what do you call it? Marble. Anyway, if anyone wants to see there's a few photos of that on my Instagram at martyn.weber, 2 B's, if you want to see some picture of the little chapel and picture of Mary and some of the coastal images there, some of the sense of what this place is. I mean, this is a really beautiful part of the world, actually. I mean, we're in West Wales,
we're pretty blessed.
Pembrokeshire, and it's so rich in spiritual ancient spiritual history
and raw as well. There's a sort
the
of
nature
a
itself is raw.
Like, it's not a place in Britain that's very it can be touristy, but not compared to most places in Britain.
No, there's not much up here. There's coastal paths and beaches and
so we've been spending a bit more time up there actually this last few months. And that's been, whenever I go there, I don't know about you, but I sort of feel like my spiritual well is being filled.
Nice.
Like there's this feeling of being filled by the place itself.
Yeah.
Which is really, it's really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, this part of the world was pivotal for me. I remember years ago, I was living in the city, and I got to get out. And I was sort of trying to meditate and be more introspective and whatever, but I was finding the noise of the city to be, this was way back in the early 90s, and I was, finding the noise and the busyness of the city to be too much, and I moved out here, St. David's, and lived in a tent and a caravan and a cottage by the sea of various places, and it was transforming for me in ways I didn't expect. But it has spiritual power.
Yeah.
I think places, we've talked about this, places do.
Yeah.
And part of that is the rawness and the unspoilt nature of it. And where it has been built, you have the town of St. David's is interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't know, I'm not even sure, but I know a lot of these places are sort of 5th, 6th century. It's like 1,500 years of constant devotion, attention, worship, prayer, contemplation.
What's that thing? I'm probably going to butcher this now. You might be able to pick me up more correctly on what I'm trying to say, but that thing of how many trips to St. David's are supposed to be.
Oh yeah, well, St. David's is a cathedral there, and it's it makes in the UK, in Britain, there are cities, there are towns, there are villages, there are cities, and cities are generally qualified by size. But if a town or a settlement has a cathedral in it, it's automatically classed as a city. So St. David's is Britain's, perhaps Europe's smallest city. It's like about 5,000 people who live there, but it's a city, and it has this incredible cathedral.
It really is an incredible cathedral.
I don't exactly know the full history of it, but it's a almost incongruous that this basically a small town or a village would have this beautiful cathedral and a bishop's palace there. But it was, St. David's was a very real saint, one of the founders of the Celtic Church in Wales, and I think his relics are there. I think his bones or something's there, and it was such an important pilgrimage site back in the Middle Ages that it was said that two pilgrimage to St. David's was equal to one to Rome. So it was a really important pilgrimage site.
What's hilarious is you've got a long history with St. David's, but I also have a very long history. This is well before we met.
Yes.
My whole childhood summers were spent in St. David's, which of course St. Non's is 15 minutes walk from St. David's.
It's a beautiful, actually, I was talking to the guy when we visited this sort of retreat center, and he was talking about all the miracles at the Holy Well. And there, I think skin was one of the things. If you've got and it was hard to follow him, but he was talking about various people he knew or reported. People would go there with, sort of intractable skin conditions or digestive problems were healed from exposure to this holy well. And I commented that just up the road, I don't know, 20 miles up the road, something like that, is it? Maybe not.
Close to us here, actually.
Maybe not even that, to where we are, between us and there. There's another place called St. Govan's, and if anyone's curious, St. Govan's is a fantastic spot. Go look it up. St. Govans, St. Govan's, and it's you basically walk along the coastal path, the Pembrokeshire coastal path, and you can't see any. You're looking out over the sea, and it's gorgeous and amazing. And then there's like a little crack over there on the edge, and then it drops down, and there's 70, 80 steps.
Well, part of the thing is you
part
can't
of the myth
ever
is that you can't count them, right?
The steps, that you never get two numbers the same when you count them.
Yeah. So you go down there, and it opens up then to a crevice area opens up. It's all drops down, opens up.
The scale of this is
the
massive,
scale of this
by the way.
is strange. but there's a tiny little chapel at the bottom, which has been there. I think the chapel has been there since about 1000, but I think St. Govan
was before
himself was like the 500s again, the 6th century. So a lot of really, really
well, he was
important.
a peer. I think it was sort of along the same lines as St. David's and all that.
Right.
There's a lot of
Contemporaries.
saints around there, yeah.
And so he was there's a whole myth of St. Govan, and he was, or Govan, in Welsh, Gofan, Govan. But he was, what do you call it, a hermit. And, there's a whole story about how pirates came or something and tried to find him, and then the rock opened up behind him and closed him in, and so they couldn't find him, and then opened up when he went. But he lived in this. So there's this tiny little chapel you can go to that's sitting amidst this sort of crack, but the view from there, looking out over where the sort of the cliffs sort of open up there, and you can looking out to sea, and it just takes you back to just
it could be any time,
anywhere, yeah.
But they've got a holy well there too.
But there's a holy well there, and I am the recipient of the miracle of Saint Govan. I claim. We went there back in, what year was it? I don't know.
2014.
And I've been having terrible progressive, arthritis, really inflammatory disease. I've got some in my shoulder gives me trouble, but my knee was really getting worse and worse over the. We
were just about to go and live at Muji's.
That's right. Yeah, it was that.
Yeah.
And
you could barely even drive a car or anything.
It was inflamed and painful, and it had been going that way for a while. And I thought, there's knee replacements in my family. There's people have joint, and I thought, oh God.
Yeah.
But I knew St. Govan was famous for the holy well down there, because underneath the chapel, then you have this little holy well you can walk down to. And it's famous for curing people of, all sorts of things, but particularly, I don't know, arthritis and bones and joints and things like that. So I thought, hey, what the hell?
Well, we were camping really nearby with my dad at the time.
That's right, yeah. And we visited down. I managed to get down those stairs with my dodgy knee. And the well itself was just this little kind of stone, structure.
You'd miss it if you'd miss it. You'd only,
that's the well, great. So and it was it's been dried up for years, but I don't know what had happened. Maybe it'd been raining or something. So there was the bottom of it was sort of wet and muddy, and I sort of went, okay, scooped a bit of mud and rubbed it on my knee, walked away, forgot about it. And I can't quite remember the timing, but by the next day, basically, I was something like that. We went camping, and I was like,
yeah, I can't remember exactly the timing, but it was certainly within a week.
It turned around. Yeah. It just turned around. I just, with
weirdly
no other intervention, weirdly, and I really haven't had trouble like that since. I mean, it gives me a little tweak once in a while, but that's I can only, account the miraculous, benediction of St. Govan and the Holy Well.
And even those that are really skeptical of those kind of things, when they've heard your story of where there's really nothing to account for it.
No, there's nothing to account for. I didn't change it. Nothing else changed.
Yeah.
And my knee was going in that direction, degenerate, painful, and that kind of stuff doesn't really get better usually in that way. And within days, weeks, whatever it was fine.
Oh yeah, it was certainly within a week. I can't remember it was the next day or not.
Yeah, I can't quite remember how soon it was, but it was pretty soon. We were like,
yeah.
So that's my miracle.
So yeah, there's lots of interesting tales and places in this part of the world, but yeah, St. Non's very, very dear to my heart, and I hope we'll see.
Maybe in the new year sometime, yeah.
Yeah, I hope to do some in-person retreats there if there's interest for that. So we shall see.
Watch the space.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just wanted to circle back. I've talked about why I've spent the last few weeks doing what I'm, where I'm at, let's say. Where have you been at?
Well, it's funny. A couple of months ago, I suppose. Well, I guess it was September now. you rebuilt my website. Thank you very much.
I did.
Which is super nice. Thank you. And I moved all my writing off onto Substack, and at that time I was writing a bit more again. I picked it up and I was sort of writing a bit. Anyway, we sort of put some work in. You got it ready. I thought, great, writing. I'm back at the page. I'm writing, and then almost just as that happened, I went, no, I can't write another word. I'm dry, and I get like that sometimes. I can nothing seems. I can have long spells where I'm writing every day and publishing. When I publish, posting when I feel like there's something to share in there. That's fine. But it's like when it's not there, it's just not there. And actually, there's some part of me. I think I get to a certain point. Again, it's my pattern. I need to get out of words. I need to get out of language. I need to get out of
the conceptual
speech, out of the conceptual, exactly. And at that point, I picked up my camera again and started. Yeah,
which has been a huge part of your life, on and
off.
off.
Creativity in general, and
art,
but of course, it's about what opportunities I have in terms of space and whatever to sort of be creative in different ways. I started making some, working with clay and plaster and some sculptures, but I've been enjoying photography, which is, and again, there's a part of me at some point would like to do something which, and we've talked about this before, this intersection between creativity and spirituality.
Yeah.
There's a really close analog between creative process and spiritual process, like meditation and contemplation, and there's so similar.
Yeah.
That they feed each other. How you have to approach it. Yeah, exactly. And so, for me, wandering around with, say, in my case, the camera and it's all about seeing. It's not about thinking. There's nothing to consider. It's on. You're operating on a different level. You're going on a photo walk or something, and you're just seeing, waiting for things to catch your eye, framing, shooting, waiting for life to serendipitously offer up something for you. And it's very Zen. It's very Tao. It's flowing with reality without really.
You're
thinking.
If you look at it in terms of self-inquiry, it's like you're the observer instead of attending to the
life,
object,
reality, the object, what experiencing that flow. So there's a real correlation between flow and some and an awakening, like stream entry is in a sense this persistent sense of flow, and it is flow is flow. It's non-conceptual. It's we talk a lot about non-doership, and sure, at the base of it is, but when the experience of life is this sort of I guess intersection between sort of the sense of intention and the sense of surrender, right? Those we move. And
surrender to the doing, even.
Yeah, doing happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But the doing is still sort of present, and there's this dance. Even in non-doership, there's a dance of the will. Let's say in accord with the deeper.
It's no action. It's the serendipitous free flow of action that is coming about, almost like I feel like it's like a movement of life that's happening within you.
Yeah, and you're with it, and Wu Wei, I think that's a Wu Wei is a Japanese term meaning not non-doing, doing, not doing.
Nice. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my way of, in some ways, sitting down and writing. It's based on silence for me. It's silence, listening, it's receptive, allowing words to come from that silence of my own nature. This is different, but the same. It's the silence. It's the non-conceptual wandering. So anyway, I've been more interested in that mode of my being.
Yeah, which. In the same way you say I go through those cycles,
you
go through those cycles as well of more word heavy or more art heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
More visual heavy.
Yeah.
And so, when you're in that, having to completely give over and surrender to
the new mode.
Not resist it and not sort
and
of
go, why can't I write? I've got nothing. I've got writer's block. No,
totally.
I'm just in a different mode, and
totally.
I've got to follow that along.
So for one reason or
but
another.
you've been writing a lot lately. That's been interesting. What fueled that, or what's that coming from?
I find it fascinating that. So I put out a notice. This was a few weeks ago now, saying I'm closing my books at the end of 2024. Like, so if you want a session, book it now, because I don't know what's going to happen in 2025. And just explaining a little bit about where I find myself as best I can, because it's in a very difficult place to talk about. But I think it was like the day after or that day or something, right around that time, when I allowed myself I gave myself permission to really drop it all.
Right.
Suddenly the words started coming again.
Pouring.
And this is something that I've been struggling with for a long time, and is very much part of why I've dropped everything, is like I feel myself being sort of made into a structure in the work I do sometimes, even though I'm constantly trying to sort of break that down and not have that be that way, because it doesn't actually feel very natural to me. But, people give you labels, or, you have roles, or, these kinds of things are just sort of natural human experiences. But part of that is, the difficulty with part of that for me is my inherent natural way of being right now is, and for many years, is quite hard to put into words, and even harder to express. And it's almost like giving that permission to be nothing allowed those words to sort of naturally come easier.
Form themselves. And
I don't know if I'm able to even describe this very
well.
articulately.
It seems when it comes, it pours out though, and I see that happening. You buy yourself some space, let's say, and go, I'm going to do this, and then
it's time to be in that silence. And I've been very busy in these last few years with lots of events and lots of sessions, and most of the pouring out comes through the voice, not the page. It used to be the page.
Right,
and so by sort of letting the voice silence itself, like a drop into silence, the words started to come again.
Interesting.
And as I've got busy in the last week or so, again, the words have stopped.
Right.
Mostly. So
maybe part of this new kind of regime structure in the new year is factoring in some of that space so that it all can be honored. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to try and have it so my mornings are a time for writing and meditation more. But my writing is probably most closely akin to my inner expression, my true expression. And silence is obviously akin to that as well. But
the thing is, when you're writing, it's different to when you're like, either meeting someone in a one-on-one situation or satsang, which both of those things are shaped and determined and called forth from what the person in front of you is calling forth. I find it fascinating to reflect on this always when you're working with someone or sitting with someone, that it's not like you've got some teaching that you're gonna some patter that's gonna go. It's always and it's interesting to see what gets called forth, right? Depending on who's in front of you.
Really,
and if you're doing several sessions, say in a day, that can radically change from person to person. And it's an energetic thing, right? And it's a pouring out of knowledge and intelligence and all that. So that's interesting. But of course, when it's you just sitting, or whatever, sitting in the silence of your own, being. Yes, there's nominally there are people who will read that, and that actually does shape it. But it's more about just a pure you and you and your life, you, and just a pure expression with no sort of. It's a different mode. It's pure expression.
It is, and actually, so you mentioned that thing of like it can be in response to another even. But the most recent writings haven't been, and that's because I did drop everything. I dropped all looking outward to other. I've never called myself a spiritual teacher, but that is the role that sort of nominally
functionally
happen.
That's what's happening. Yeah.
But it's interesting when you drop that and you become no one and nothing. That's where this most recent stuff has sprung forth from, I would say. Whereas what I noticed in recent times where writing has been, it has been more in relation to the other. It has still held some of that.
Yes.
My poetry never so. My book.
That's pure self talking to self, talking to God.
But actually, there's been some longer stuff coming out now that has also been that, and I've really been enjoying it because it's almost like the self writing to the self, and that's a really joyful expression, I find.
I mean, for me, slipping into these modes, I sometimes I suffer the transition because you get into a comfortable groove with it, particularly for me with writing. If I'm in a daily writing groove, and that's a really satisfying habit in the best possible way, and then that, like I say, the word dries up or just doesn't stop, and you can see how quickly we get attached to patterns. Like and so
comfortable, aren't they?
It's
like
having, and this might lead us on to something we wanted to talk about today. It's like the willingness and ability to it happens anyway, but to shift attention to where the energy is. And actually, maybe we'll pick up on this because there was a quote that I wanted to bring because we had a nice conversation yesterday about, and on the basis of a quote that I'd just heard, and the quote is this, and so let's see if it unpacks something. The quote is from Simone Weil, which is spelled Weil. She was I think she was a French Jewish intellectual / mystic back in the first half of the century, and beautiful, interesting, fascinating. But anyway, the quote is, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity."
I love that quote. Absolutely love it.
And it really opens things up about what is this attention then, and what and how, and it reminds me of. Oh, I hit my mic again. It immediately brought to mind so many different things, but one of them is you and your work, and how much of that from me looking in on it, and is about this pure, beautiful, divine quality of attention.
Yeah, unconditional.
Giving it
Yeah.
that space and that attention, uncluttered, unfilled, and in which someone can, well, as you put it, see and be seen.
Yeah.
Met in the deep, met to be met in the deepest possible sense. And it is that quality of attention, pure, loving attention, that is the great gift.
It's love.
It's love.
It's love. But it's not just the small human style love that we think of. It's divine love.
Yeah.
And actually, we are all capable of that.
Yeah.
Where we allow our attention to so wholly be present.
Yeah.
With another, whether that be a person, an object, an animal, a moment.
It's a value thing, isn't it? I mean, and so we look at how we use attention, and look at, I say use as if it's a willful thing, but it can be seen that way or not. But you can see in your life, it's worth looking. I mean, this is the edifying moment here, but what are you paying attention to?
Yeah.
Where is your attention?
Your energy.
And what in that sense, and it shows you what you value, what's important. And when you pay attention to attention, you can learn so much about where am I drawn, what am I looking at, and what is the quality of my attention.
Yeah, how am I filling up my time, my energy?
Yeah.
What, it reminds me.
Attention's everything, yeah.
The other day, what was it? You was talking about, like, we were having a conversation, I think we were on a walk, about consuming and not just what we're eating, but consuming on all levels. And that's attention. It's like, what are we letting into
you doom scrolling on Twitter, which I do a fair bit of. And I'm aware that giving my attention to that too much can start to fill my energy field with something that's not, but it's something that's not altogether
nourishing,
good. Nourishing, exactly. So that's that idea of consumption, or what are we consuming? So which is related to this
the
power of what we're attending to, what we're giving our attention to.
Yeah, who are we surrounded with? Who are we? What are we even just eating? What are we? What are we allowing our attention? Not allowing. That's not quite the right word, but
maybe something.
Yeah,
where is our attention?
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. It's like where is attention, and actually, to me, this is where things like meditation and inquiry, all of this is like, it's not about the end goal of what happens. It's about the intention and the attention there.
And it's interesting. So, but really seeing this as a gift, and I remember years ago reading Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now and all that. And he talked about, I don't know if he necessarily put it in forms of attention, but he was talking about how most people, when they're sitting with another person, so little of their attention is with and for the other there. I think he used more like words like present. So you're present to, same kind of thing. What are you present to? What are you, and this idea that when we sit and we're with another, but it's all your whole, all these thoughts, all these things. Oh, what are they saying?
You're only getting a fragment of your actual attention.
Exactly, and what I noticed, what came about for me was this greater capacity to be present. Yeah. And therefore to have this pure gift of attention,
and it's not for filtered through the mind. It's just
not
pure,
like
no, it's just pure attention, pure presence.
And I think it's when you experience that from another or with another, it's a powerful experience.
It is
really powerful experience to be met.
It's, I think, the greatest gift we can give another human or anyone. And
I see more you and your work leaning much more into that real power of the pure gift of attention and presence. We talk about presence, I think almost synonymous here. It's like that. It's the gift. What does she say? It's the purest generosity. And rarest form of generosity. It's just to give that attention to the other. To say, okay, I'm here for you. Yeah. What, and that creates this space for all of the particularly when someone is let's say even not in necessarily in spiritual terms, right? And these are deep human principles, which I would argue are also divine principles. This is life, and that ability to be present and not be so full up that you can't even offer that presence because you haven't got it in yourself. And so
it's very healing. We were talking about this yesterday of trauma work, for instance.
Yes, right.
Where there's this thing of trauma when witnessed is very healing.
Yes.
It's very healing to have someone witness you as in that acknowledgement, that validation of that trauma can bring about a great healing. And it's something I've personally experienced, and also something I've been present for others who
offering that,
where I'm present to them in their trauma, that trauma is healed in them.
Validates the experience that they're having and allows that experience to unpack, resolve,
exactly. And
disperse.
it's not that trauma can't be healed on its own. That's not what I'm saying, but it is that there is a power of attentiveness, of that attention, of that validation, of that being seen in that allows sort of an unpacking, an unfolding, a healing of that to occur. And also I think yesterday we were talking about like witnessing someone in that provides an anchor point for them as well.
Right.
Where like when you're in that sort of trauma response, let's say, that's all that there is. And
you're identified with the trauma and unable to perceive any space around it.
Exactly.
Which turns, as Ken Wilber would talk, turns subjects into objects, and that allows you to go, oh, I'm not identified with this trauma, this wound, this whatever activation. I'm actually the context, the space, the being that knows this, and although the experience is there fully, you're not so identified with it. It becomes
and so that process of being able to step beyond and prior to that trauma is not necessarily an easy process on your own. It's helped by having another there to anchor you in that presence, in that recognition, in that awareness.
Well, it reminds me of one of Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings and things that he would promote, which was compassionate listening. And he would do it in these it's very timely, but he would do it between Palestinians and Israelis and Jews and Muslims in that area who had this kind of really difficult history of obviously. But he would work with groups over there who were willing to participate in this process of mutual compassionate listening, where one would allow and listen without judgment, without interruption, and without reactivity,
but not passively.
Well, what was interesting is that you don't speak in that, but when someone's actually talking to you, unloading themselves, he saw it in terms of giving someone the opportunity to sort of offload their suffering on you, but in doing so, it also reveals your own
so you have to
stuff
be
in there.
very
so you have
present,
to practice yourself in that silence. You're holding your own thing. So, but you take turns in that until the other had completely spent their.
Because how often do we not? How often are we not present to the other because actually it's bringing up too much for ourselves. So we're trying to fix the other so that we don't have to feel what we're feeling.
Right.
And so there is a real challenge in that holding space for another. You also have to hold space for yourself. And it's almost like the pair of you can only go as deep as the space is able to be held for. Yeah. And so that's what's really challenging is if you are present for another, you are giving someone that attention, you have to do so knowing full well it's gonna bring up
and
a lot.
And the beauty of that is you're mutually then expanding your own depth of your own spaciousness, your own being. I keep hitting my mic. I don't know if it's showing up in the recording. Anyway, yes.
So in recent months, this is sort of goes on to this subject of darshan that I've been called to more and more. And I've been doing in-person stuff recently, and that's been wild in terms of seeing what that does. Yeah. Particularly in November, I did an in-person event that was just, I really allowed myself to completely go there, completely surrender to that process. And to me, it's like it's really is to unconditionally meet someone.
Yes. And they feel that.
yeah, and
at
in person,
at the most profound level.
Yeah, and it's very, it's powerful online, but it's in person. I've been blown away what happens in person. But it's like it's the full, utter, unadulterated, holistic attentiveness, unconditional meeting.
Yeah. And that's transforming. I mean, you're watching people really, like, I mean,
before
be deeply affected and transformed before your eyes, literally before your eyes.
Yeah, literally. And, having people come up to me afterwards and say, I've never had someone meet me in that way. And like, just realizing that, like, because you don't even realize it until you've had that. You don't realize what you're sort of haven't had, so to speak.
We're bouncing off each other, right? Everyone's bouncing off everyone else, and no one.
We're so full up with structures.
Yeah, so to actually meet that total, open, deep, unqualified, non-judging, universal, loving, compassionate meeting.
Yeah. And it's not me, Imogen meeting, although it is as well, but it's like the experience of it is hard to put into words, but it's like the divine meeting the divine is what it feels like, is the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, because you talked about, in that particularly, I mean, I think in your work generally, and there is that oneness that's always being pointed to and always holding the whole experience, but in particular the complete dissolution of experience of any sort of sense of boundary, any sense of separation, a complete. I mean, I'm just
that's exactly
reporting what you've reported, what people have reported about that.
So I think that's part of my thing of 2025 of like of allowing myself to go into those places that I feel called to, but I've been holding back from for I don't know, there's a bunch of reasons why I have been, which are, some of them are relevant and some of them aren't, but I guess it's time is what it feels like. And it's that, whatever you call it, whatever, it doesn't matter, but it's that thing of the total attention. And that's why I love that quote.
Yeah, that quote,
because it's that. And it's like, we were talking about this yesterday, of attention and love being synonymous. And we're talking about children, and how we've made this thing of bad of like,
they just want attention. They're dragging at your shirt, and you go, they just want attention. It's like, as if, what do you mean just?
Yeah.
Attention is the great gift.
It's the great love. That which you love, you give attention to.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've made.
And so if you've got like a child dragging on you wanting attention, go, no, my attention's more and you dismiss that.
Yeah.
What are you saying? What are you paying attention to? You're on your phone?
Yeah.
Or something? And I mean, I get it's not always possible to give attention to those things that necessarily need them, but
to recognize the gift of your attention.
Yeah.
And it is
the necessity and the nourishing quality, the nourishment that you can give as a form of generosity to sort of.
Yeah.
That's why I love Simone Weil in this. She's right on the money. In fact, I think a lot of her work was around, a lot of her writing was around this attention, which of course is closely allied to awareness, consciousness. It's that presence.
Yeah.
But the power of that.
Yeah, I think we all can be more mindful.
Yeah.
About how important our attention is.
I look back, when I look back before, and I look at how I was when I was younger and how I behaved, and you could say, whatever, not so great there. I had to learn, I had to transform, I had to unpack, I had to, and I look at some of the things that, when I look back, I go, I wasn't present. I wasn't present to that. I wasn't present to him or her or that. I wasn't present. I was so busy in my own processes, chasing something, seeking. That's so much of the seeking thing. It's like, where's your attention? It's on next.
Yeah.
And it's not really on
It's
this
not,
moment. What's unpacking? What's unfolding? What's right in front of you? What?
It's
And
not
so
just
presence,
attention about others, it's presence to yourself, attention to yourself as well.
Right.
The quality of attention, that are we not paying attention and listening to ourselves?
Yeah.
So it's not just about being present to others,
Yeah.
it's also about being present to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay.
We ripped the Band-Aid off.
Yes. After what, 2-3 months, whatever it is. I hope we'll do better next year. Must do better. But anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. And it always helps if you like, subscribe, and share in whatever ways that are available.
And just wishing you a really peaceful, beautiful turning of the new year.
Yeah.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
May all beings be happy.
Yeah. Let
free.
there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. May all beings everywhere be happy and free.
Yeah. Sending love to you all.
Indeed. Okay.
Until next time.
Bye.